You've lied about your drinking, you've hidden it. You've said, I've got this, but deep down you know your partner simply doesn't believe you anymore. The trust is broken. And every time you say it'll be different, it only gets harder to repair. And I get it, because this isn't just theory for me. I'm Luke, and I'm a specialist addiction therapist who's helped hundreds of couples reconnect after years of damage caused by addiction, without them needing to go to rehab or AA, or without them giving up their careers or families. So, what's the real secret to save their relationships when everything seemed too late? Well, we're about to unpack all of that raw truth in this video, about how addiction quietly rips through relationships, what sobriety actually changes and what it doesn't, and how real trust can be rebuilt step by step. And look, if you're sitting there knowing your relationship is on the edge and your drinking is part of the reason, then don't wait. Book a free private call with me using the link below. Let's talk about how to save what really matters most. Now, let's dive into the hidden pain most people never talk about, the silent damage addiction causes to relationships. You've probably said this to yourself 100 times. I'm not hurting anyone but myself. Maybe you've even said it out loud, especially when someone you love brings up your drinking again. But you just brush it off and you get defensive and you just say, I'm not that bad, I got it under control. But let me be real with you for a sec. It's hurting them more than you realise. Because what addiction really costs us, what it really steals without us even noticing, is the trust. And trust is the glue, it's what holds your relationship together. And without it, everything starts to crack, slowly and quietly. I've seen it over and over again with the clients I work with. You think you're hiding it well, you pour that last glass when everyone's gone to bed, you downplay how much you've had, and you say you're just tired when really you're hungover. And you lie, not just with your words, but with your silence, your half-truths, and your energy. Like one of my clients, Tom. On paper, he's smashing it. He's a director of a construction company, super high functioning, makes 6 figures, married, has 2 kids. But at home, the cracks are showing up. He told me something that hit hard. He said, every time my wife asks me how much I've had to drink, I lie to her face. I can see the look in her eyes, she knows, and I know she knows. But we both pretend because it's easier than having another argument. And it's not just the arguments, it's the distance, emotionally, physically, and sexual distance. You know that you stop reaching for each other, stop spending time together, and you start sleeping in the spare room. Because deep down, you know you're not showing up in the way you used to. You're not the partner, the dad, the man you want to be. And if you're honest with yourself, there's fear there too. Fear that if you keep going like this, you're going to lose her. Fear that your kids are going to start to notice. Fear that you're one bad night away from wrecking everything. And that's the emotional cost of addiction. It doesn't always explode like a car crash. Most time it bleeds out, slow and silent. But as I said at the beginning, there's good news, and it doesn't have to stay like this. When you take that first step and get honest, to get support and actually do something different, things start to change. So what actually changes when you get your drinking under control? Is there just a few less hangovers and more money in your pocket, or something deeper at play? Let's dive into what sobriety really changes, especially when it comes to your relationship. Alright, so let's talk about it. Because it's not just the obvious stuff, it's the trust you rebuild, the respect you earn back, and the emotional connection that starts to grow again. Because here's the thing. Addiction isn't just about substances, it's about what those substances are covering up. And when you take the substances away, yep, it feels raw at first. But that's also where real change starts. Because when you're using, whether it's alcohol, coke, whatever, you're not really present. You're not emotionally available. And you might be there physically, but you're not really there. You might even be cracking jokes or acting like everything's fine. But inside, you're numb and you're disconnected. And so is your partner eventually. And because they can feel it, they feel the wall you put up that they've tried time and time again to get past. For all the arguments, all the pleading and all the conversations, the cold shoulder, the sofa treatment, eventually your partner starts to disconnect from you and from the relationship and from themselves. Because they need to protect themselves and the rest of the family from the chaos that you've been causing. They can't trust you, they can't communicate with you, and they can't rely on you. And that's a tough pill to swallow for anyone. Which keeps us stuck reaching for drink and drugs. But here's the good news. When you stop numbing, you start feeling. And yes, uncomfortable at first, you feel the guilt, the sadness, and even the shame. But you also start to feel love again, compassion and gratitude. And these emotions start to come through your behaviour, through your communication, and through your acts of service. And for the first time in a long time, your partner starts to feel like they're not alone in the relationship anymore. And you become emotionally available again. And then there's the trust. The trust doesn't come back all at once. It's not a big I'm sorry that fixes everything. It's about micro commitments, tiny promises you keep, like texting when you say you will, coming home on time, being honest when you're having a rough day. Each time you follow through, your partner feels a little safer. You become someone they can count on again, and the trust becomes better and the communication becomes better. When you're not drinking, you don't explode in arguments, you're not defensive all the time, you can actually listen, pause, breathe and respond, not react. And then the intimacy comes back, not just the sex but the closeness. You start laughing again, making eye contact, holding hands on the sofa instead of sitting 2 feet apart, staring at your phones. You see each other again. She starts to see you, and not the version of you that drinks too much, but the real version that's grounded and trying. And through it all, you get something back you probably didn't even realise you lost. Your self-respect. You look in the mirror and think, I'm actually proud of who I showed up as today. And that changes everything. So now, you're probably wondering about how exactly do you get there and rebuild the trust. Rebuilding trust is one of the hardest parts of recovery, not just with your relationship, but with yourself too. You might be thinking, how can I expect her to trust me again after everything I've done? Or maybe it's more like, I'm going to say I'm going to change, but I don't even trust myself to follow through anymore. And I hear you, but the truth is, you can rebuild the trust, and it has such upside. But it doesn't happen overnight and not with some grand gesture. You rebuild it with small, simple, consistent actions. And after looking at hundreds of people's assessments and seeing everyone struggle with this is the stuff we built into our addiction control program. First, you learn how to make an amends in week 5, and in 6, you learn how to rebuild the trust step by step. But I'm going to share some of it with you now. In the program, we call these consistent actions micro commitments. They're tiny promises that you're able to keep, and you need to keep them. Stuff like texting when you say you will, or coming home when you said you would, like being honest when you've had a tough day and you're tempted to slip. So let's do an example. So one of my clients, he used to say to me and his partner, I'll only have one. But obviously, it was never just one. What he was doing the usual of ending up staying out late, avoiding eye contact and trying to pretend like nothing happened. So when it came to week 6, we started working on rebuilding trust. Dan started small. Started by texting his partner when he left work, telling her he was struggling and not going to the pub. That just one act of honesty really broke the pattern, and the rebuilding trust wasn't just with words, it was with actions. And that's what we call a living amends. The saying I'm sorry is just one start, but it's actually about making the change. Showing up sober to the family dinner, helping out in bedtime when you used to just be zoned out. All these things your partner notices. It's not the big speeches, but the quiet moments where you finally act differently. Because here's the thing, your history doesn't have to define your future, not in your relationship and not in life. Trust can be rebuilt, and I've seen it happen, even when things feel broken beyond repair. You don't have to be perfect, but you do have to be consistent. So if you're still watching this, then my guess is that something is hitting home. Maybe it's the guilt, maybe it's the distance in your relationship, maybe you've even been given the stop or else talk. But here's what I want you to know. You definitely don't have to lose everything before you get help. You don't have to go to rehab or quit drinking forever. There is a different way. It's private and it's structured and it's built for people like you, who are smart, driven, high-functioning professionals who want to get their drinking or drug use under control. It's called our addiction counselling program, Addiction Control, which is what we specialise in. We've helped hundreds of clients the same as you rebuild trust in their relationships, reconnect with their partners and finally feel proud of how they're showing up again. And I'm confident that we can help you too. So if that sounds like something you're after, here's what to do next. Book a free private consultation call with me via the link in the description. No pressure, no commitment, just a real conversation about what's going on and how we can help. The link's right below the video, so go book a call in my calendar now. And if you've been telling yourself, I'll deal with this next week, let this be the week you actually do. Because I promise you, on the other side of this, there is connection, clarity and peace you haven't felt in a long time. And it all starts with one call. So I look forward to speaking to you soon.